Okay, so I wouldn't usually do this, but a mod called Pearlcat just released, and it is taking the workshop by storm, so I thought I'd do the review early instead of waiting for the modded monthly review. Kind of big downpour spoiler warning, but let's get on with the mod. Pearlcat is a mod by Forthbridge with art from Gia, with sound effects from Sidera, and additional code help from Noir. The mod adds obviously a new Slugcat called Pearlcat to the game. This slick fella has the ability to gain power through data pearls. Now this mod has a ton of things to talk about, so I'm just gonna go one thing at a time. Firstly, the Slugcat. This Slugcat looks amazing. It capitalizes on the fact that it uses custom Slugcat graphics. You can see its ears and cloak move around very dynamically, and it just looks so polished and almost official. Pearlcat is on a moving fucking train in the tutorial, isn't that wild? This is probably the coldest Rainworld tutorial ever, even for official standards. The tutorial itself teaches the player how to use some of the pearl mechanics. But to summarize, by holding up and grab, you can add a pearl to your cycle wheel, and then cycle through your cycle wheel to get to that pearl to use its abilities. However, some pearls have passive abilities, which don't need to be cycled to and selected to be activated. These mechanics took me a while to get used to, but once you get the hang of it, it's fine. It's worth mentioning that I did playtest this mod before it released, so I might be a little biased towards the mod. But I feel like Pearlcat is so good that it doesn't even matter that I'm biased towards it, it's that good. Every pearl color has an assigned ability. For example, blue tinted pearls give the agility effect. Some pearls have weird colors that don't correlate to a color, like brown or some shit. These pearls are still associated with an ability and therefore a color, and you can tell what a pearl's ability is going to be based on the symbol next to it. For example, this maroon pearl shares the same ability as a red pearl since they share the same symbol, the Dragon Slayer symbol. This logic applies to all pearls. I will now talk about each pearl and its abilities. First is the purple pearl. This pearl doesn't do anything, but it kind of looks a bit familiar. Next is the black pearl, which when selected will camouflage the Pearlcat if it stands still. The effect stays if Pearlcat starts crawling, but gets removed when it stands up. I'm not sure how effective this pearl is, but I love the camouflage effect it gives. The next pearl is the blue pearl, which is agility. This pearl gives the Pearlcat a double jump and is a passive pearl, so you don't have to select it to perform a double jump. In my opinion, the distance given by this double jump is really powerful, and its cooldown is tremendously shorter than Artificer's. The nuttiest thing about this pearl is it can stack. You can get multiple blue pearls, and they give an additional jump in the air, like it's fucking Trove or something. This is pretty disgusting, but you have to find a bunch of blue pearls, so I guess it's kind of balanced. It's worth mentioning that Pearlcat by default can store up to 8 pearls in its cycle. This means you can have a bunch of build diversity, like you can have a min-maxed blue pearl flying build, or more of a dabbling build where you have one of each pearl. Each unique pearl gives a slight buff to Pearlcat's stats, so it's incentivized you do more of a general build, but min-maxing is still powerful. Next up is the yellow pearl, which symbolizes protection. This pearl is a very simple one. It provides the shield that protects Pearlcat from otherwise dangerous attacks. The shield will go on cooldown once activated, and will be replenished after a short time. Just like blue pearls, the effect is passive, and can be stacked, meaning you can have multiple shields. Next is the red pearl, which means power. When cycled, the red pearl will automatically lock onto hostile targets and shoot a laser at them. Basically the same as Drone Master's drones, except less powerful, and the pearl can't move away from Pearlcat. This effect stacks with more red pearls giving more lasers to attack targets. A red pearl must be selected since this is an active ability. Another pearl is green, which symbolizes vitality. It has the ability to revive creatures once per cycle. This is mainly intended for Pearlcat, so if it's in a situation where it usually would die, the green pearl will save it from its demise. But this one doesn't recharge until you hibernate. If this pearl is cycled to, it can be used to revive other creatures, such as this little fella, which I'll talk about more after the pearl section. You can use this revive on any creature, so you can revive your enemies if you want, to torment them. This effect stacks, and is both an active and passive ability depending on how you use it. The final major pearl I want to talk about are white pearls. They don't symbolize anything, but their ability is when holding grab while one is cycled, will create a white pearl spear. This reminds me of Conjuration from Hunter x Hunter, which is the coolest Nen affinity. Specialist doesn't count. These pearl spears are very powerful, with their gimmick being that if you spear a creature with one, the pearl spear will implode, dealing massive damage. This basically makes them an explosive spear that can be reused if you miss your target. Since you can store up to 8 pearls, you can store like 8 white pearls and pretend you're Spearmaster while playing Pearlcat. That's a fun way to play. Alright, time to talk about the beginning of the campaign. I guess I'll put a spoiler warning here. There's not much of a campaign, but it might be better to experience it for yourself. As Pearlcat, you start in the transit system, which is a moving train. This is where the tutorial takes place, which explains how the pearls work. Eventually you have the option to revive this dead slug pup called the Pearl Pup. A cute little slug pup that resembles a younger Pearlcat with a scarf. This fella is sort of important to the campaign. You don't have to play with the slug pup, but it is intended you do and adds a bit of challenge to the campaign. Eventually Pearlcat reaches the train's roof, which is easily one of the coolest things ever added to this game. Like, look, what the fuck, look at this! And in my opinion, it even surpasses the more Slugcat stuff. This is one of the most memorable scenes of Pearlcat, and is one of the many high quality things added to the mod. After sleeping in the shelter, Pearlcat wakes up in Metropolis, which Pearlcat must traverse all the way through. After leaving the brand new rooms, Pearlcat will end up in the Scav King Dome. There is a nasty bug in this mod where the connections in this room are broken, but installing the Merge Fix mod by Bro might alleviate this problem. It is intended that Pearlcat speaks to Pebbles, since they have the mark of communication. I'm gonna let you play the rest of the campaign by yourself, or watch someone else play it, I guess. As said before, the campaign is quite simple. Before I end the video, I want to talk about my favourite little details from this mod that you might have missed. Firstly, the sleep screen and the select screen are actually dynamic, and represent what the Pearlcat currently has in its cycle. Both the colour and the amount of pearls. This is honestly my favourite part of the mod, I don't know, it's just really cool. You can also use your mouse to interact with the pearl currently cycled on these screens as well. Like, what do I even say, this is incredible. I also like how the pearls not currently selected by Pearlcat float around in unique patterns, which change depending on how many pearls there is. My favourite pattern is the wave, where the pearls go up and down in a line. I also like that when Pearlcat is disrupted, the pearls will stop floating and drop to the floor. When the Pearlcat has recovered, the pearls return to their usual cycles. This reminds me of 5 Pebbles since he drops the pearls when disrupted too. The last detail I want to mention is the fact that Neuron Glow and Mark of Communication change colour corresponding to what pearl is selected. I don't know, it just looks cool, okay? I do like my cool details in mods. To conclude, Pearlcat is a very good modded Slugcat mod. Easily the best so far. Like, anyone who's played this game should definitely try Pearlcat, if you have access to the Steam Workshop, of course. My criticisms of the Slugcat is it's definitely too powerful, and in my opinion I think Slugcats are best when they're challenging, but that might be a selling point to some. I'm actually going to bring out a brand new award for this mod because it's that good. I declare Pearlcat Mod of the Summer. I would give it Mod of the Year, but I don't know if any mods will surpass it, so we'll wait and see, I guess. I'll leave a link to it in the description, of course, but if you can't open the link, it's literally like probably on the first page of the workshop right now. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Make sure you like and subscribe, please. 5,000 subscribers is my current goal, so help me achieve that by subscribing. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.